time. It's time for the Billy Flynn Experience.
Thank you so much for joining me today on a wonderful sunny Monday morning. You're actually coming here live from Germany. I am your host, Billy Flint, and this is the Billy Flint Experience. Haven't been on here in a while. Haven't did a podcast in, I don't know, maybe a couple of months. A lot of things have been going on in the world, and just really kind of taking a break since the New Year's. I think the last podcast I did was something about my jabs, my vaccination, and I think that was the last podcast that I left off on, in which I must say, bringing up the vaccination and all of the restrictions here in Germany. Wonderful to say that none of the way things were last year, things have lightened up a great deal, surprisingly, after everyone has gotten pretty much the vaccines. Since I've gotten both mine, and everything's good, nothing's no change, no extra body parts grown. I'm still healthy, still doing good. So that's one good thing that I can report on. But, coming to the latest news on what's going on in the world. And that is, of course, Russia invading Ukraine. And it's pretty interesting because all different platforms that I am listening to throughout on YouTube and on Instagram, and like with most news or news information, you have to question the news source and where they're getting this information from, because there's a lot of misleading news, fake news, misinformation, whatever you want to call it. It's running rampant. It's running rampant all over the place now, all on social medias, and this is one of the reasons why I personally got off of Facebook, and I don't really spend that much time on Instagram, and I'm just about done with the internet, social medias. I'll still stay with YouTube because YouTube. And I'm trying to grow this platform here, but I have other platforms on YouTube. I have a music page, and I also have a travel page. So I have different platforms and my platforms is based on facts, either from my own personal experience, which hence Billy Flint Experience, meaning these are my experiences. Whatever I talk about, I've experienced personally. So I stand by what I only know as far as experience. And that brings me to wanting to do today's podcast, because like I said, I've been on browsing Facebook and Instagram and different platforms here on YouTube. And one of the major news that is out today is of what's going on over in Russia, and of course the invasion of the Ukraine. Okay, that's news. That's a big part of news. But then you have your sub-genre of news, and there's always got to be something. There's always got to be something about racism or something being thrust in there whenever there's some type of turmoil going on in the world. There's always has to be something thrust in there about racism. So I come across the this one bit of news, and it was on Star the Star Chamber. He's one of the very important YouTube platforms that I enjoy listening to because his content is so on point. It's very interesting to listen to. So, yeah, I listened to the Star Report, and today he had something on there, and it was I think it was done from yesterday, but this is something that disturbed me because it was about the Africans or the South Africans not being allowed to travel out of the Ukraine and over into Poland. They were stopped at the border. They weren't allowed to board the trains, and now it's taken off, and other platforms are really bad mouthing. And this is what I don't like, because this is my experiences since I've been here in Europe. I've lived here for over 10 years. I've traveled throughout Europe for over 20 years into different countries and spent time with communities and people and dated a few women here in Germany to know that what I'm saying, I can only go by my experience, but a lot of the news that is being put out is fake, and it's being perpetuated by individuals that probably never even traveled outside of the United States, because all of the stuff is coming from the United States. All of the clips and all of the uploading on social media platforms, it's just from people from the United States. These are Americans and probably never even traveled outside of America. And if they have, Bahamas, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, if you want to call that traveling outside of America, well, that's fine. But I'm talking about traveling, and not only on vacation, but having a chance or having the ability to live in other countries. Not only living in other countries, but working in other countries and being a part of different communities and learning the culture and learning the language. And this is what really disturbs me when it comes to situations like this, because, you have a lot of misinformation out, and it furthers, it put further the stupidity to where people would just listen and not do their own research, but just listen to what's being put out there. And then the ignorance just continues to travel and roll on and roll on and roll on. So my main thing was, again, about the information that was about these South African students or weren't allowed to travel over into Poland. And again, there's been a few 5-second video clips of, yes, Africans not being able to board a train. And I'm putting this out there for people who've never been here, who've never been to Europe, who've never ridden a train, who've never bought a train ticket to go from one country to the next. There is a protocol, especially now that we're still living in the era of COVID. And without even knowing the full extent of these video clips, is just people are taking this 5-second, 4-second clip and running away with it and bad-mouthing a country like Poland, or the people in Poland, or the people in the Ukraine, and without even knowing anything about these countries, or knowing anything about the culture, or knowing anything about the people. Never even had an experience with them. And this is what pisses me off. This is one of the reasons why I am so glad that I had a chance to leave America. I got the fuck out of America, excuse my language, but I had to leave because of the stupidity, the ignorance, and the short-mindedness. I had to leave. I wanted to experience life. I wanted to experience traveling and learning and meeting other people from different countries and understanding the human condition. But that's just me. I'm not expecting other people to want to do the same, but I am definitely here for dismantling ignorance and fake news being propagated through different social media platforms. I don't care who it is, whether they're white, black, Chinese, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But if you put out fake news, and if I come across it, I'm gonna speak on it. I'm gonna speak on it in a concise way to dismantle the ignorance or the false information. You had a couple of news, just really quick. There's two different stories. One story saying there was South African students that were studying in Ukraine. Then another story came up, and that's where this video clip shows, and it was just West Africans that were not allowed to cross over into Poland. And regardless of who they were, again, there's a protocol in buying a train ticket. You purchase your train ticket. If you're traveling from country to country, even though this is the European Union, and you can travel, through the borders with no problem. But a lot of times when there's a situation like this, when there's a turmoil that's taking place in a country, in different countries, when there are certain situations that happen, they want to control the traveling of different nationalities, not really nationalities, but like for instance, the Ukrainians, they're traveling, they're migrating into Poland for safer grounds. So they have a protocol that they go through. Right? They're not gonna, because again, we're still locked in this corona situation, and crossing over into different borders from different countries in this corona time, it is very difficult. A lot of countries are still doing tests. The PCR tests, they're still doing that. That's still going on. So we don't know by watching a 4-second clip whether or not this was racism. It could have been a situation that the train was crowded. Could have been a situation that the train met its capacity. Or maybe there was another train coming and there was a language barrier and they were trying to tell them, because everyone doesn't speak English. So maybe there was a language barrier. But however it was, it's all of this misinformation and these talking points are making it seem that the citizens of Poland didn't want these Africans in their country, and that's not the case. It's definitely not the case. People from Poland are some of the nicest, welcoming people within Europe, from my experience, all the times that I visit. Hell, living here in Germany, I still hear a lot of misinformation and lies about German citizens. And from my experience, no. Up front, I've never experienced racism. I've experienced more racism in America than I've ever experienced the whole time that I lived over here in Europe. And traveled throughout Europe and traveled throughout Southeast Asia. And traveled through parts of Africa. I've experienced more racism in America than I've ever experienced traveling anywhere in this world. So, with that said, again, be very careful on the news source. And you also have to be careful on the news sources that it's coming from, and what's their agenda. Why are they propagating this news? Is it for, clickbait? Is it for views? Is it for, it could be for a number of reasons, but a lot of the information is wrong. So I just wanted to clarify those things because it disturbed me. Again, it really disturbed me as I was reading this information, as I was seeing all of this news popping up on different social media platforms, and it just kind of like really got under my skin. So again, from my experience, I know what is, and again, I don't want to take away that racism doesn't exist. Yes, we all know it exists, but we're living in times now where people tend to want to take a lot of things out of context to fit their own agenda or storyline. So that is my 2 cents. And thank you once again for joining the Billy Flint Experience. I am Billy Flint, and I'm going to try to upload a little bit more podcasts. It's just that, like I said, I wanted to take a break from social media. I was just getting a little bit too much from the last my last podcast that I did, which was about the vaccine. So I'm back. And thank you once again for joining me. And I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay safe and look forward to talking with you again. Ciao.